Hi, this is Susie Sale, Director of Tourism for Camden and Kershaw County, and I'm coming to you today with your Visit Camden and Kershaw County moment. And this is taking place at a time where we're going through some very unusual circumstances. But this is not the first time in the history of Camden or Kershaw County that we've been through difficult times, and we always come back. Take a look.
In 1776, South Carolina joined the other North American colonies and declared their independence from Great Britain. Although Camden's people soon declared their allegiance to either the colonies or to England, the town itself was far removed from the fighting until the British invaded South Carolina in 1780. After the fall of Charleston, the British Army, under Lieutenant General Charles Lord Cornwallis, planned to occupy and pacify South Carolina and then to turn north to march against North Carolina and Virginia. To accomplish this, the British raised several units of Loyalist companies and established a series of fortifications across South Carolina. Once again, Camden's strategic location on the watery river and as a gateway to the interior was as important to the British as it had been to the Native Americans and to the early European settlers. On June 1st, 1780, Camden became one of the British Army's most important garrisons. 2 months later, in August 1780, the British routed the American Army at the First Battle of Camden, where the Patriot forces suffered one of their worst defeats of the Revolutionary War. For the next 5 months, the only organized forces standing against the British Army in South Carolina were small bands of partisans. In April 1781, a second Battle of Camden, known as the Battle of Hobkirk's Hill, took place. Although the Continental Army was again defeated, they remained a cohesive fighting force and a continued threat to the British Army. Soon after the Battle of Hobkirk's Hill on May 10, 1781, the British put Camden to the torch and retreated back to Charleston. Although the war continued until September 1783, the people of Camden quickly returned to rebuild their battered city. For many, it was a time of rejoicing as prisoners of war returned home, and a time for recreating the town that the retreating British Army had destroyed. A few buildings escaped the torch, and they were soon joined by many others, a testament to the strength and resilience Camden's people have always shown to adversity.
By the time George Washington visited Camden during his southern tour of the new United States in 1790, Camden had rebounded and had 120 residences, a courthouse, a jail, stores, churches, and several taverns or public houses. Contemporaries attributed much of the prosperity that visited Camden after the Revolutionary War to the presence of several splendid flour mills located along the watery river. The river also continued to enable citizens to do a lively trade between Charleston, the Low Country, and communities in the backcountry. While ships plied the river and a bustling ferry connected Camden to the markets in Columbia, the lands around Camden were rich with corn, tobacco, wheat, and cotton. Beginning around 1800, the introduction of cotton to the backcountry began to surpass other agricultural crops, and cotton mills eventually took over from the flour mills. Camden merchants drew cotton from farming plantations as far north as the Yadkin River in North Carolina and as far south as the Broad River in South Carolina. Camden newspapers were filled with notices about boat arrivals and departures. A number of craft plied the waterways to bring goods into Camden and to carry off the large quantities of cotton filling the stores and streets. The inland port of Camden was booming. A 1798 plan of Camden shows a well laid out town with several public squares and a fairground. At this time, most of the homes and industry were located in the lower town around the original colonial era settlement. The upper town still had marshy areas full of wildlife and just a few homes and businesses. A fire in 1813 destroyed many of the buildings in the lower town. When the people rebuilt, they moved their businesses and homes further to the north along Broad Street. It was during this period that a second community came into being just north of the city. In 1818, 2 years after a devastating malaria epidemic swept through the city, the Kershaw family laid out 14 one-acre lots facing a common area on a sandy hill about 2 miles from Camden. They named the area Kirkwood Village. The Kershaws intended Kirkwood Village to be a summer retreat for wealthy residents in the common belief that the higher elevation would alleviate the effects of the sickly summer season. Each lot came with access to a spring and the use of a common area. Many of the homes in the Kirkwood section of Camden date from the 1820s to the 1850s, and they share common architectural styles that were prevalent in the antebellum South. In 1825, Camden welcomed a noteworthy visitor when the Marquis de Lafayette, hero of the American Revolution, visited the city on his tour of the United States. While in Camden, Lafayette laid a cornerstone to a monument in honor of another hero of the Revolution, Baron Johann de Kalb, who died at the Battle of Camden. Just as they had done for Washington's visit in 1790, the entire city turned out to welcome Lafayette, to honor one of the last living heroes of the American Revolution. Within just a few years, many of the homes and businesses which greeted Lafayette during the triumphal visit to the city were destroyed in the Great Fire of 1829. A contemporary account described the awful conflagration as a sweeping devastation that destroyed the whole of Broad Street on both sides from York Street to King Street. In 1 hour, the flames enveloped the entire square. When the people at last managed to put out the fire, the most valuable part of town was a heap of smoldering ruins. Yet again, the Camden community pulled together as they rebuilt their stores and homes, once again just a little further north along Broad Street.
So you see, Camden and Kershaw County historically have been very resilient, and we are a resilient people. We are strong, and we will overcome this particular challenge just like we have so many in the past. We hope you'll come see us. This has been your Camden Kershaw County Moment.